There's not even a blue iPhone. But there might be.
Yeah, it's got a white case on it.
Oh my goodness, you guys.
I don't get it. I don't get what the colors really mean.
Stop it, Jeff.
Oh, do you have the rose gold?
There's no rose gold 10. God, get with it.
I like these people, and they say, "Oh, I just got the 10." It's like, what do you mean, just?
Yeah, this is the worst time of year to buy a phone. Like, wait until after the announcement. And if you still want the 10, save $100, you know? Andy, you know that, right?
Oh yeah. Unless you're new to this game, this is what Apple people live for.
It's the most wonderful time
of the year. Yeah.
I need you guys to make sure that's in our intro when we start talking about it.
We're waiting for you to kick it in.
I can't. Nope. You knew I wasn't going to. All right, let's try this again. Welcome to the Blind Abilities Network. I'm Serina Gilbert. And guess what, guys? We have a brand new tech show that we're bringing to the Blind Abilities Network, and I'm super excited to introduce it to you. The title is, drum roll, please. Drum roll, please. Welcome to the Access Abilities podcast. I have with me two very special co-hosts. I have Jeff Thompson and Andy Munoz. How are you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing great, Serina.
And Andy is brand new to the Blind Abilities Network. How are you, Andy?
Doing well, thank you.
Do you want to share a little bit with our audience about your background and why you love tech so much?
Certainly. Try to be as brief as I can with this. So I've got roughly 20 years of tech experience, and most recently, I actually worked for Apple in their accessibility queue. And then now I work for the division of rehab in the state of Colorado. My passion at this point is certainly working with folks who have disabilities, primarily blind and low vision. And that's a little bit about me.
So, Andy, I have a question for you.
Certainly.
So you are literally one of the Apple geniuses?
I wouldn't say I'm an Apple genius. That's actually a store term.
But can we call you the Apple genius?
Yeah, we'll call you that.
Yes, you can call me whatever you want. I feel pretty confident in my knowledge of the Apple product.
So we'll just stick with AG.
Apple genius. So unless you've been living under a rock, certainly you know that September 12th is going to be a big, huge day for us Apple nerds out there. Jeff, do you know what September 12th is?
Right. The most wonderful time of the year.
No backup from Andy?
It's the most wonderful time of the year. Oh, you're going for the last course. It is the most wonderful time of the year. I'm excited about it.
It is the best time of year. I look forward to this day even more than Christmas because I'm just the biggest Apple nerd there is probably. And hopefully we haven't lost you with our super fun and amazing singing that we had there. But next we'd like to talk a little bit about what the rumors are and maybe make some predictions. And
it's all speculation anyways, you know.
But it's fun to talk about it. And although I will say a few years ago, before there were leaks left and right, it was a little bit more fun.
Right.
Because you really didn't know it was coming and you had to really pay attention. And now we're like, oh, there might be this and that. And let's see if they were right. And like 90% of the time, they're completely on point with it. So traditionally in the September event, Apple announces new iPhone models. And this year they're rumored to not only announce new iPhone models, but also Apple Watch. And I believe their new wireless charging pad. So let's start with the iPhones. According to 9to5Mac, there's at least two versions of the new iPhone 10s coming out, which are rumored to be called the 10s. There will be two different sizes, a 6.5 inch and the traditional 5.1 inch, which is what the 10 is right now. What do you guys think of those? Are you looking forward to an even bigger iPhone 10?
I kind of am. I think if I've seen the pluses before. I've never owned a plus, so I was thinking about it. I thought it was going to be called XS.
We have had this argument so many times, Jeff.
It just sounds excessive, doesn't it?
You can go either way with it. Even being a former Apple employee, I think we even referred to it in both ways, either the iPhone 10 or the iPhone X. So I think it goes either way. I'm
excited. I am excited because my phone's 2 years old. It works fine. So I don't have to make a decision. But if I'm going to pull the trigger on something, I think I'm going to go with a plus.
Well, it seems like there's not going to be a plus. It's just going to be the 10S and just come in two different sizes. It looks like they're going to completely take away the models that have the home button.
Yeah. And I think the one thing I saw too is I think the smaller of the two is actually going to be an LCD display. as opposed to what it is now. And pardon me, I don't have the terminology on it off the top of my head, but I think the smaller one is going to be an LCD display, so that's going to be a little bit different.
Are you referring to the rumored SE, like the new the refreshed version of the SE?
No, I was seeing something where they were talking about the two models, and I thought they said that the smaller of the two iPhone XSs was going to be an LCD. I was trying to find that source right off the top, and I can't. One of my former colleagues actually shared an article in a group text that we have. And
that would be really odd if they did that, because the smaller version is going to have the same form factor of the 10, which has the OLED screen, so that coast-to-coast screen with no bezels. So if they did decide to do that, that could be a way to cut the price down to maybe get more people to upgrade who aren't willing to pay the $900 to $1,200 for a new phone.
I'm thinking that's kind of what they're going for.
Yeah, they're looking around that $699, $799. Someone even said low as $600. But the speculation, that's what makes it fun, though. You know, we're anticipating what's in Santa's sack, you know?
Right.
It's also rumored to have some new colors, the silver and the traditional space gray, but this time they're also going to have the rose gold. So either one of you looking forward to a nice pink phone? I know you guys are super comfortable in your masculinity to be able to have a pink phone.
I know my oldest son, he was wanting me to let him upgrade to the 10 initially, but I'm sure come September 12th, if he sees the 10X or 10S, if I can learn how to talk, would be in rose gold. I'm sure he'll be hitting me up that, hey, can I upgrade to that? We'll address that, I guess, as it comes near.
I really don't have a preference for color. It really doesn't do much for me, because the first thing I do is I put a case on it and that's it.
So funny story about cases. This is totally like a me having a squirrel moment, but I think you guys will find this humorous.
Squirrel.
So every once in a while I'm like, I'm tired of my case. I'm going to try to take it off. And I have an iPhone 10. So I try to take it off. Guess what happens as I'm taking the case off?
You drop it.
It goes flying across the laundry room and hits the wall.
Oof.
Wow.
It mostly survived. There is a crack on the back of it right above the camera though now. That'll show me.
Wow.
The case was just on there that good.
Well, that's the thing. I have two cases. I have a leather case, and that comes from Apple, and you can get that for, I believe, $50 or something of that nature. And I really like it. I've had it for 3-4 years. The leather style works fine for me, but Lori bought me a charging case, and that's where I have to take the leather one off and slide it in so it charges while I have it. And I like that, but it is always a moment when I take it apart and pull it apart, because you know it's naked. You know, you pull it out, and that's when the vulnerability happens. So
phones are so slick.
Oh yeah, especially the rose gold ones.
Well, and when the whole entire phone is literally made of glass, that's what caused it to go flying across the room.
Now, what kind of backing is on the 10? That is glass, isn't it?
It's glass, which is why it's cracked above the camera right now.
But once you put the case back on.
Oh, you can't even tell.
Right. And it still works.
Yeah, but I'm afraid I won't be able to upgrade this year because I'm on that upgrade every year plan with Apple.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how it works when you have damage to the phone if you wanted to upgrade, but I'm not usually one that works that wants to upgrade on the S cycle of everything, because it's usually the same form factor. I usually like to wait till every other year to get like a new form factor.
Yeah. And that's what I'm doing. I'm on my 2 years. When my 1 year came up and the 8 came out, I was not in the mood to do it. It's just cost. You know, I didn't want to be stuck with the 8 for 2 years, knowing the 10 is lurking, or it was out, but the next iteration of wherever it's going.
Well, and really the 8 was really no different than the 7, other than the fact that it had the capability of wireless charging.
It's so true. It was basically the same.
You know, honestly, if they hadn't come out with the 10, I think last year Apple would have shot themselves in the foot by just coming out with the 8, because it just wasn't anything exciting. That was just kind of one of those kind of throw-ins, I guess. I mean, they would have been better off just calling it the 7S is my thought process on that.
I do understand it had quite the speed boost. I will tell you that, because I had some people upgrade from the 7 to the 8 for whatever reason, I don't know. But they said it was massively fast.
Oh yeah, they got a bigger chip in there and a processor in there. I heard the speakers are better. Everything has a little bit better. The cameras are better, especially on the 10. Have you noticed anything about OCR? Is the 10 better using seeing AI than a 7?
I never had a 7 because when I had a 6.
Wow.
The dinosaurs, I call
the big leap.
Yeah. So, but what I'm not sure that as far as OCR goes, it's any better but it is faster. So if I'm using, because my work phone is still an iPhone 6, and then I have my iPhone 10, that's my personal phone. So if I use Seeing AI on my work phone, it takes way longer. Not like it's, minutes longer, but it's definitely longer before it starts recognizing things.
Yeah, and that obviously that's going to be just because of the chip that's in that 6 as opposed to what's in the 10.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, I have my work phone is an 8, and then I have the 7. I honestly don't see any difference between the two. I mean, like I said, the only thing really significant to me would be the wireless charging. Other than that, even the sound quality and whatnot, I've not noticed anything that really would have made me jump out and spring for that. Now the 10, obviously, yeah, the camera aspect of it, because I do take pictures and take videos. And so for me, that would certainly be a seller. Just wasn't sure that I wanted to spring for the $900 or $1,200, depending upon the amount of storage I wanted. Just wasn't sure I wanted to pull that trigger.
Well, and that's kind of brings up kind of a really sort of related point to what I was thinking about. If you recall, last year, the 8 and the 8 Plus released, I don't know, 3rd or 4th week of September. But then the iPhone 10s didn't release until November. So I wonder if that's going to impact people's even ability to upgrade this round because of the fact that you didn't get your phone until November or December this time as opposed to September or October.
Well, I think one of the things too to think about is, again, coming up, if they're going to release more phones, okay, so let's say they're going to release the iPhone XS or 10s, whatever we want to call it, and then let's say they decide they're going to throw in maybe an updated version of the SE, it's going to be dependent, I think, on how they decide to release it, because I think purposely they did the 10 last year because they wanted that holiday push. And I think on that part, they knew they were going to get more sales the closer to the holidays. Are they going to release it in October, or are they going to hold out till November?
Well, it seems like they've been holding out on the charging pad that they talk about. It's been so long, I've forgotten the name of it.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure they talked about it at the keynote last year.
Yeah, well, it's going to be here this year because they've talked about the case coming out for the AirPods. That's going to be waterproof and be able to just set it right onto, charge it right on the flat pad. So that's why I believe everything's coming out this year. And I heard a rumor that next year you're going to get the next iteration of the AirPods in 2019.
So, and maybe this is just me being ignorant to what people do with it, but are the AirPods going to be waterproof or just the case?
I believe it's the case because that's the new form factor that they're coming out with is the case.
So I guess the question I'm going to ask on that too, because there's two different terms, waterproof and then water resistant.
Mm-hmm.
And like the newer phones are water resistant. They're not waterproof. I was kind of thinking the same thing. I mean, what would be the point? I mean, I guess maybe have your Apple Watch and then you have your AirPods so that you can listen to music while you're swimming. That certainly could be a use for it. But I was kind of thinking that same thing. What would be the point?
I think if you have it in your pocket and it goes to your wash or it goes to something that it adds another layer of defense for that. Or if you just drop the case or some people drop things into the toilet or into the sink or whatever.
Yeah,
that could happen. It's supposed to prevent just that instantaneous dunking of something.
Yeah.
I've heard AirPods go through the washer and dryer and they still work fine. I wouldn't recommend trying that or testing it and emailing me and saying, hey, it didn't work.
Insert disclaimer here.
Yes. So I think the idea that they're doing is just for those instantaneous things that, not instantaneous, just those
accidents, those freak accidents
right.
that happen. Yeah,
exactly.
That makes sense.
I guess I'm just the oddball that I say this now and then I'll probably be on the next show, I'll be like, so yeah, I dropped my iPhone in the toilet. But I've just never had that happen to me. I know that it happens. I know of people who've dropped it in bodies of water and things like that. But with the AirPods in particular, I guess I could see how it could happen, but it's
I think it really happens to people who put the phone into their back pocket.
Yeah.
I don't want to go through any description here, but that's my guess. I don't know.
So, Jeff, this has happened to you then?
No, I've never. I'm with you. I've never done it, but I don't want to jinx myself.
For me personally, I've always been one, no way. I'm not putting the phone in my back pocket. Of course, I worked through the time when Bendgate happened. We got a lot of those calls of, oh, yeah, I put it in my back pocket and it bent. Well, yeah.
You sat on it.
Yeah.
I see people do it and I cringe. I'm just like, no, don't do that.
I don't do that, and I don't put my wallet in my back pocket. It's just something that I have never done, and I usually don't carry anything in my back pockets.
So for those of you who want to pickpocket Jeff, don't waste your time.
Yeah. It's really interesting in the fashion and everything. They talk about wearables and everything and how we use our device. I don't like even putting my phone in my front pockets because when you pull it out, anything else can come out with it. So I like having it in my shirt pocket. And a lot of my shirts now have pockets in them. So I like that.
I put mine in my pocket, but it's dedicated. So nothing else actually goes in that pocket but my phone. Of course, now trying to juggle two phones, that's a trick. But anyway, that's another story.
You can get your man bag.
No, thanks.
Jeff has a man bag.
Yes, I do. I actually call it like a recording bag or a man. Yeah, it's a man bag. I don't care. It's a purse.
Just embrace it. It's
a purse. I got it in England and I'm going back there, so I get to bring it back. It's like going home, my man bag's going home.
Funny though that you say you put your phone in your pocket because the 10 is surprisingly heavy.
Oh, really?
It's kind of like the difference between, do you guys remember the 4 to the 4S and how the 4S just felt like a really nice, expensive phone and how it was a little bit heavier? That's how the 10 is compared to when you hold an 8. It just feels fancy.
I'm always scared to put it in my front pocket, in my shirt pocket, because I'm always doing something. For me, I feel like it's safer in my front pocket. Like I said, I just dedicate. I don't put nothing else in there. So to each their own, whatever you're comfortable with. But at least for me, it's yeah.
Yeah. And Serina, how do you carry your phone?
Well, I'm a girl, so I have these little teeny tiny pockets in all of my pants. I don't have the 2 feet pockets that you guys have. So it's usually in my purse.
They should come up with something. It's
well, they have the belt clips and stuff like that.
Oh,
but those are just not convenient,
Yeah. I hate anything attached. When iPhones were really brand new, he had that leather thing. You put it on your belt. So I went out and got one. I thought that was really cool. Until you go through a doorway and it takes it right off and just kaboom. It's like,
I'm forever, for whatever reason, my hip always catches a corner. Give you an example. My son busted his screen on his iPhone 7, ended up going in, didn't have the Apple Care, which I told him to buy, didn't do it. And he went and ended up having to pay $180 to get his screen fixed.
Which is about how much Apple Care costs. Because it's usually $200.
It is for the 10 or for the X, whatever we want to call it. For the older models, it's roughly 100. I think it was 129 after taxes, something like that. Wasn't too bad. I mean, and then for what you got for it, you get the 2 accidental damage claims.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course, then you get the screen, the screen replacement or repair at lesser cost. I mean,
yeah,
you certainly can't beat that.
I brought my 7 in because they have in the betas, they have the battery beta where you can go in there and it'll say how much juice it still has, what
right,
it's worn down to, its potential. Mine was at 82% possibility, and so I brought it in there and I said, I think I just want to get a brand new battery and they looked at it and they said, okay, yeah. Because when it gets to 80, that's when they like to replace them. And they said, what we'll do, we'll just waive it. We'll just do it for you. And I thought that was really cool because I had Apple Care and it was nice.
But of course, some of that's store dependent. Other stores might have said, I'll charge you. Because I've worked with folks that actually did time in different stores. And so you kind of got a different feel for it. But either way, glad it worked out.
So if you're looking for a new phone and these phones that they're going to spring upon us, I heard there's going to be 3 of them, that when you do go for your purchase plans, that's a big thing to consider. Do you want to do it through your phone company or do you want to do it on a yearly basis where you pay, I don't know, anywhere from $40 to $50 depending. 10s are a little higher, right, Serina?
Yeah, I pay $49. The extra cost is actually just because you're paying for Apple Care.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have the option to upgrade this year if I want to and trade in the old one. Or if I keep paying on it, then I just own the phone after the 2 years.
Yeah, it just continues on another 2 years, right?
Well, yeah, I'll just own it outright after the 2 years.
Yeah. And that's what I did. I actually paid mine off early just for that. I was just getting tired of mine was $36 or something because I have the 7. And it's a different feeling because this is the first time I actually outright owned my phone. Actually outright paid for it. It's I've always been on those plans with Verizon, a 2-year plan. Every 2 years you get a new phone.
But I miss those plans. I miss being able to pay $199.99 or $299.99 because I've been with the same phone carrier for like ever. So the fact that I'm on like a 2-year agreement doesn't bother me. I'd rather save the $800.
Exactly. Apple's got a racket, but I still got to pay my phone company. Wait a second. There's that $800 you're talking about, right?
It was when I bought my 6 was the last year that they did that. You paid $199 or $299 depending on the model you got. And the phone company subsidized the rest of it. So Apple was still getting all their money, but since you signed a 2-year agreement with, let's say, AT&T or Verizon, then that phone company thought it was worth it to them. And then all of a sudden, one company decided that they weren't going to do it anymore. And all the others followed suit.
Gloria's still on that plan.
She's lucky. If she ever needs a new phone, she's going to have to pay out right now. That's part of why I didn't upgrade. Like, because I used to upgrade like clockwork every other year. And one year AT&T messed up my upgrade. So I got to upgrade 2 years in a row. So it's like, sweet. If they still had that plan where, your phone was essentially subsidized, I probably would have gotten the 7 and then the 10, I guess. But instead I waited, years and years to get a new one. I think a lot of people are doing that now. I think I've seen some people that still have 5Ss want to pay for the upgrades.
I think the part of it, I mean, even for me, I just finished up a lease. I'm still kind of in that limbo mode of what am I going to do? So I'm actually on an extended lease, but it's like, I can do one of two things. I can either pay $200 now and have my phone own it outright, or I can upgrade and continue paying X amount of dollars on a phone bill. So it's like, okay, do I want to lessen my phone bill and, maybe have that for a while and then, kind of decide where I'm going to go? Now obviously part of this is now that we have these new models coming out, once I see what those features look like, is it going to be something that's going to sell me that says, hey, go ahead and pull the trigger on the upgrade, or am I going to hold off again? We'll kind of play that by ear, but I think that's part of it. Obviously, if you can save a couple bucks on your phone bill, why not?
See, and that's where those leases really almost irritate me, because then when you get to the end of the lease, you're going to pay $200 for a phone that came out 3 years ago? Like, that just seems ridiculous,
Well, the lease was 18 months.
Yeah.
So I got it. The phone had only been out maybe 2 months. It wasn't a big deal. When you do the math, you're spending a little extra. It's like $32 a month, which basically came out to like $576. So they're making a little bit extra money just based on the fact, you pay that extra $175 or $200, whatever it is, to pay it off outright, because you could actually buy that phone for, I think, what was it, $649 plus tax. So they're making a little bit, but not too bad.
I think no matter how you go about it, you're going to be paying at least anywhere from $40 to $50, $55 nowadays probably, or you're going to be paying it straight up. There is no really wiggle room around it. It's just something that for the rest of our lives, we're going to be paying $50 a month to have a phone.
As much as it costs us, and it's super irritating, I could never imagine not having this device, not because I'm spoiled and obsessed with technology, but because it is an accessibility tool now, where even if you say, okay, this is $1,000, well, even 5 years ago, $1,000 would have maybe bought a portable magnifier, maybe. I remember my first KNFB reader, the portable one that was like the PDA and the digital camera attached to each other.
Piggyback, yeah.
Yeah, that thing was $2,200. And that device served one purpose. So as much as we like to be like, oh my God, it's so expensive, if you really put it in perspective, given what we use it for, the accessibility factor, it's actually kind of a bargain.
They got to stop calling it a phone. I think it's more of a it's more of a PDA than PDAs were.
Like, Jeff, remember when you were trying to make a phone call to me and you... So funny. So I called Jeff and the call wouldn't go through and it kept dropping. So then we finally just is it WhatsApped me? WhatsApped me? I don't know. We finally used WhatsApp and he goes, well, how did you call me? And I was like, I use the phone, the phone app.
Yeah. By the way, it is a phone.
Oh.
No, the thing is though, is these devices are seriously game changers. And it really didn't occur to me until 2.5 years ago when I jumped into the accessibility role. I started learning how folks were using their devices and I was just completely blown away. And then obviously now that I use them on a daily basis, it's like, I use it for so much. And technology, it's never going to be cheap.
No.
That's just the nature of the beast with it. It doesn't matter what it is. It's never going to be cheap. And we just have to realize that, hey, we want to continue having our sense of independence and whatnot. And even for those that don't use it for the accessibility features, I mean, those that use it for just everyday stuff, we've all become super dependent on technology in some form or fashion.
Yeah. Well, it's access to information, that you're readily on the go. You can't carry a wall calendar around with you. So many gadgets that you would have to load up your backpack with that you can do pretty much all this on the phone. We're talking about putting it in pockets. I think this year I'm going to do the extra cost and have it surgically embedded so I don't have to lose it, drop it.
Time.
So yeah, we've been talking about the phone and the plans and all that, but there's some other devices that they've been rumoring about. I heard something about it could be the 13-inch Air coming out, or it could be an iteration of the 13-inch MacBook.
So they're finally maybe going to refresh that?
Yeah. What has it been? 2014?
I don't know, because I have a MacBook Air and I got it like 3 years ago and it said it was like from the year before. So I don't know if that just means that's when it was manufactured or the last time that it was like refreshed.
Probably 2014, but don't believe me, this is just speculation. I heard a lot of people talk about the Air, and some people has claimed that it's the best Mac that they've made.
Oh, it's my favorite for sure.
Is it really?
So thin. Yeah, because it's thinner than the Pros or even the regular MacBook, the one that's the 12 inches.
Mm-hmm.
So I can fit it in my purse, believe it or not.
Oh, yeah, that's really convenient. And that's why I have a new iPad, just because I do a lot of meetings and a lot of council stuff. And it's so easy to carry that and just open it up. And I got the Filio case where the keyboard's right there and I can take notes on a plane. I don't use it at home as much because I got my computer. But when I'm out and about, I can just throw it in my backpack or throw it in my man purse, if I may.
I don't know why you're calling it a backpack.
Good one.
Well, we talked a little bit about the wireless charging pad too. We barely touched on that, but if they actually come out with that, which gosh, I would probably rumor it'd probably be like a couple $100 because nothing at Apple is cheap. Would that be something you would consider? Especially if you updated your phone too.
If I got the phone, then I would have to consider that. When you pull that trigger and you go in and buy one, I don't know if you do it online or if you order it online and all of a sudden you realize you need that. You get off the phone, you went into it thinking, oh, it's going to be $899, then it's going to be $900. Then you get off the phone and you're sitting there at $1499 because, okay, yeah, I wanted 256 gig, I wanted the pad and I wanted the case and I wanted the Apple Care. So beware, buyer beware.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I know personally for me, I'm one of those that I won't just buy a bare bones model. I've never felt good about, like with Microsoft and stuff, when they've done that, where they just give you a bare bones. Oh yeah, your machine will run just fine on this. Negative. I've never had good success with that. Because of that, I've always bought extra. So yeah, you definitely come out of there spending more than you initially intended. 16
gigabyte in a small phone was really impressive back in the day.
Oh man. I did buy the entry-level model of the 10 because the bare bones model was still 64 gigs, which is plenty of space for me.
Well, in that case, yes. I mean, and even I did go 32 gig on my 7. That for me has been good. I mean, I still have about 18 gig of space available.
You got very short videos.
I mean, I don't take a whole, my videos aren't super long. And, if I'm not using an app, I get rid of it. I'm always a space saver. And even like my text messages, I have my text messages set to delete after 30 days. So, 32 was fine on that. But I was more or less talking from like the computer side of things. Mm-hmm. They'll do all right, but eventually they're going to slow down. The more you start using them and things like that, let's face it, most folks don't do the maintenance that they're supposed to. So you're going to end up with stuff on there that you didn't want. It's just going to slow it down. For me personally, if it says minimum requirement 4 gigs, I'm going to at least go 6 or 8 as far as RAM is concerned. If I can get a faster processor in it, I'm going with faster processor.
Yeah. And I think that's what people are looking at today. I heard someone that had 64 gigabyte RAM, and I was thinking to myself, wow.
Oh, that was that new MacBook that just came out. The one that was like, would we price it out at like $6,000 or something?
Yeah. You can build that sucker up to... Oh, can I say sucker? You can build those things up very high. And it's just kind of fun. Once you get into that page, you start clicking on the stuff, and the Surface Book too. I went in and checked it out and I started clicking on the 13-inch and bang, I was up to $3,000. and that was for a 16 gigabyte i7 processor and a terabyte. $3,000. Boom.
For a Windows computer.
That's one thing that I'm really concerned about. I mean, we're talking about Apple stuff here, but Apple products, they say they're expensive. You saw the price tags on some of those things, and we were just talking about. But even the Surface Pros, the Surface stuff that's coming out, it's not cheap.
But I get that the Apple computers are expensive, but I have a PC downstairs in our office, and I have my MacBook Air. The PC gives me way more trouble. Then my MacBook has never had one thing ever wrong with it. It's never slowed down. It still works like it's brand new. And I've had it for like 5 years almost.
You want to know what the biggest seller for me was when it comes to Mac and PC? The fact that Mac has far superior accessibility built into it. Because obviously you have voiceover. Of course, that's nice because then if you have a trackpad, you can use, some of the same voiceover gestures that you use with your iPhone or your iPad. Then of course it has screen magnification. You have the ability to do dictation. You have all of these things already pre-built in. The counterpart, Microsoft, has some of those things. They're just not to the same quality, at least in my opinion. And then of course, if you don't use those, then you're having to go out and you're having to spend, $1,400 or something for JAWS, or $500 for Zoom Text if you use the screen magnification, and then of course whatever it is for Fusion if you decide to go with both.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, you can get those third-party stuff, but the thing that sold me on the Apple is when my PC fried, and this is back in when 7 was coming out in the Windows JAWS and all that stuff. Yeah, it was 7. It was right after XP. Second edition. But anyways, when it fried, I decided to go Mac, and I really like the part that they make the equipment, they make the software. It's one house, one company making everything. It just works fit for so many years. Today, I don't know if that they use that as much. It just works, but I do like that. And it's kind of neat to see that Microsoft is coming out with their own Surface line of computers, and it's just like, I had to cock my head. I had to turn and look. I had to give them some attention because that was interesting. And when I priced it out, they're no cheaper than an Apple product.
So there's some other rumors of what might come out as well. Do either one of you have an Apple Watch?
Yes, I do. I have the 2.
I believe mine's the 2 as well. Do you have one, Andy?
I do not. And I've toyed with the idea. I was wanting the 3.
Serina,
but
he doesn't have a watch and you brought him on the show?
Hey.
She didn't know
the screening.
She didn't know any of this. I really do want the watch. I'm actually kind of curious as to the new Series 4 that's coming out, because what I was reading on that especially is that it's supposed to give more screen surface. So
I was going to say, yeah, you might
smaller bezels. Yeah.
Because the way that they displayed it, I think it had an extra 3 complications on it, which normally there's 4, I believe. So maybe it was an extra 4. But either way, there was
I think an extra 4 because I saw the analog face said it could hold up to 8 complications.
So that's double.
Ooh,
yeah,
complicated.
Somebody said that on the picture that got leaked of the Series 4, not that this is a useful feature, but whatever, because we don't live in places like this. It told you the UV index. It could read if it was safe to go out in the sun.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
There's that trademark. Huh.
Oh, yeah. It makes you wonder the stuff that it's capable of doing.
I wonder, because I haven't seen the Series 3, so I don't know. Is it thinner than the 2? Do we know? Or is it the same form factor?
It's actually, I believe it's the same. They didn't change the size of they still 42 and the 38.
Yeah,
I'd like to see it get a little bit thinner, honestly.
I have to agree with that. I remember bulky watches, especially on a girl's wrist. I see the problem right there. Bang, it's like, hello. And so I was really wondering, because the 38 is not really a compromise. They're still both big. Serina, you want it thinner.
Yeah, I want the actual form factor to be a little bit thinner to make it just look a little sleeker.
Any of you ever done archery or something? They use those wrist pads that cover so the string doesn't. I wonder if there's ever going to switch to the phone or to the watch, be more oblong, give you more surface. Why can't you have it come up your wrist a little bit further?
I'm sure that they've done some weird Apple study and found that, people just don't like that. You know how Apple is.
That's so 2024.
We are already in 2052.
We're just not there yet.
But yeah, I'm really excited. I've heard rumors about the Mac Mini getting a refresh, but these are just people with they got to put so much ink on the paper, so we don't know what's really coming out. I've heard the Mac Mini. I've also heard Apple TV that they're going to do something, but if you get on Google long enough, you'll find everything.
You know what they haven't, or at least I haven't read anything about any sort of rumor about, and I know they're not going to refresh this, but I have a HomePod, and I know they're not going to refresh the actual form factor or anything. But there has been absolutely no talk about what iOS 12 will bring to the HomePod at all.
Didn't you just get your AirPlay 2?
Yeah, but that's weird. I don't have 2 HomePods, so I don't really care. It is nice that from my phone, I can tell it to play on the HomePod. That's kind of convenient. But as far as actual features and Siri actually being smart on the HomePod, like, it's super disappointing.
So you can tell your phone to play music while Siri is built into the HomePod, and you could just tell Siri.
But, if you're upstairs doing laundry or picking up your phone from the floor that fell,
Is that where you're kept all the time, is doing laundry? Your phone breaks in there, you're playing music from the
That's usually where I listen to the Blind Abilities podcast.
Well,
Serina.
and then you got to hope Siri understands what you're saying.
Yeah, that's always...
I just don't understand why Siri is so lacking. They need to show her some love this year.
They've been trying to create shortcuts, and if you look into the betas or on your phone right now, I believe if you're running the beta, which I am, you can see the shortcuts, and it's just redundant, the things that you've already done.
And I am looking forward to the Siri shortcuts being able to be more integrated with third-party apps. Like, it would be really nice for me to be able to tell Siri to play a specific station on Pandora. Like, that is something that I don't understand why it never could do that in the first place. But it will be nice for those things to be able to open up a little bit. But I also feel like this is almost like a lazy way that Apple took of making Siri smarter by just opening it up a little bit differently to third-party developers, and then being like, oh, yeah, make it do all these things that it should have already been able to do.
It's a workflow.
Mm-hmm. Which is what they purchased a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I've gone into the workflow, and I sat there for a little bit, and it's like, okay. And after about 15 minutes, I just close it up and go,
Yeah, I don't know. To me, there's just no excuse. I mean, when you've got a counterpart in Alexa who's fairly useful, at least from the things that I've done and heard from other folks, you would think that would be something that Apple would bump up.
Especially since they were the first ones to even have the digital assistant.
Right.
That's what makes it even more. And I get when you're the first, somebody always makes it better. But I feel like they always say every year when they release the new iOS, Siri can do all these other things. And every time that they say all the things that Siri can do now, I find myself thinking, oh, I thought she already could do that. So, okay, awesome. I have no faith in it now. I'm like, yeah.
Well, and it was something that I've always thought about. It's like, okay, you come out with a new phone every year, or you come out with maybe a new model iPad, you're adding Siri to the Mac. But at some point, these products just become products. You've got to do something else that makes them stand out even more so than your competition. You give that an upgrade and you make it comparable to an Alexa. It's definitely going to make it a bigger seller. You're already one of the largest companies in the world as it is, but still, as in anything, there's always room for improvement. And I think even in the accessibility side of it, I mean, granted, it's great. I'm not going to knock it, but really there's still some things, I think, even with some dictation on the Mac side of things, make it somewhat similar to Dragon, where you can create a voice file. And, because it definitely has some nice things built in. I mean, you can certainly do some text editing and do some different things like that, but there's certain things that it still can't do. And, if you start focusing on those areas, you're just going to enhance your product that much more.
Well, with all the voiceover stuff that we have, I mean, we got it on the watch. We have the 3 has Siri on the watch. We have all this stuff. It can tell your heartbeat. It can tell you, Jeff, breathe. Jeff, stand, and all that stuff. I want it to get to the point where I pick up a piece of fried chicken and it says, Jeff, hey, dude, let's talk. I want that type of interaction where, no, I'm serious. I mean, I want something that's smart. They're talking about artificial intelligence. To me, it's just database-driven information. You go to the Amazon devices and stuff, and they got 10,000 different skills that you can do. Give me 20,000, and I'll use it just as less. There's stuff, there's games, there's, other things, informational stuff. But I want the thing to actually be smart. Not just a resource, a dictionary or a encyclopedia or a Google search. I want it to be intuitive, smart. I see the shortcuts. It sees that it's remembering things that I've done. I wonder if that's going to build a database so it will be able to predict my tendencies. But hey, let's talk, Siri. Let's talk.
I just want something incredibly simple that they released in iOS 11 with VoiceOver. I just want it to actually recognize pictures. We've got this great feature that you released last year, and I find it completely useless, honestly. I find it easier to take a screenshot and send it through Seeing AI than to even attempt even just the simple gesture, because it's just so unreliable, in my opinion.
Well, that new feature in Seeing AI where it will actually label the pictures.
Yes, that is ingenious. Like, why couldn't Apple have built that in?
That's amazing, because you can't even go into your camera or your photos and you can actually label the photo. But as soon as you take the next picture and it moves, so I don't even know if you can do that anymore, but it was kind of a silly thing, because I spent about 2 hours one time labeling like 30 pictures, and all of a sudden I took a picture and it all shifted and it all went away.
You can still label them, and that shifting must have gone away, because I labeled a ton. When I first got my new iPhone, I was like, I'm going to label every picture that I take, because I was, naive. And so I started labeling them as I took them, and they did keep the labels, but it's just so tedious. Like, it's easier. Even when I want to share a picture now, I just go into Seeing AI, because they do have that share button in there where you can push it out to whatever you want when you know for sure that's really the picture that I wanted to send out.
Yeah, it's coming a long ways. And I think what they're announcing, I'm going to be riveted to this. I'll be in England at the time, so it'll be 6 p.m. for me. And Central Time, I believe it's 12, because it comes on at what time? 10 o'clock in California?
10 Pacific, yep.
Mm-hmm. So 11 time Mountain. We got to get Colorado in there. And
don't forget.
Yeah.
That's
then 1
2/3 of the
East.
podcast here, Jeff.
Yeah, I know. Hey, I'm looking up to you guys. Mile high, right?
Oh, goodness.
So,
the jokes.
I just think they put on a great show. I mean, they come out and, it's the same old. And now we're going to call out, and the guy comes out, or the gal's over there and she's flicking on the phone and doing all this stuff. And it's kind of exciting. And what do you guys predict is going to be the thing that we're overlooking? Do you think there's going to be a surprise?
You mean the "but wait, there's more" moment, like there always is every year?
Drum roll.
I think the "but wait, there's more" is going to be the refreshed SE.
Really?
Because people still like the smaller form factors, and there's still a niche for that.
So the 6.1 is not the small form factor?
No, a lot of people don't like that.
And speaking with a lot of, obviously being in that support role for the last several years, I found that a lot of our blind and visually impaired customers did like that smaller phone. I personally, I could go either way. I'm not so much a big fan of the Plus, just because it just doesn't feel right, in my hand. Even like using an iPad, if I'm going to use it, it's got to either be on a flat surface, or it's got to have a case that's got to stand where I can use a keyboard and kind of navigate it that way. Because for me, it just feels awkward. I guess it's all in who you are and what you feel comfortable with. But I've found that a lot of folks that have the SE or have like a 5S and would like to get an SE, but just didn't want to get the current one, because again, as we all know, their lifespan is only so long and they'll only take so many updates. And that was a question I got all the time is, do you know if they're going to make a new SE? And I was like, well, you just never can tell. I mean, if Apple holds true to form at some point, yeah, I thought it was going to be this last year and it wasn't. So we'll kind of have to wait and see what turns up.
I'm excited for the SE for people if it does come out, because I understand the real estate. And you're right about the iPad. I don't like using it just as an iPad. I use it as a keyboard input type of device. And that's how in meetings, it's portability, everything like that. There's a reason to have certain pieces of equipment. I'm just kind of excited to keep saying the Plus, but it isn't the 10S. I said it your guys' style. The XS, isn't that going to be as big as a Plus though?
So what they're saying is that because You know how they just call the iPad now? They don't call it like because I do know they have the iPad Pro, but they have two sizes of the iPad Pro, but they don't call them something different.
Right.
They're saying they're just going to bring the whole iPhone 10 under one name, and then you're just either getting, the 10s, 5.1 inch or whatever it is, or the 10s 6 inch. I forget what the measurements are. That's and then the first one is what the original form factor is. And then there's going to be one that I guess will have the same screen real estate as the Pluses currently have, but it will actually be a smaller form factor because of the bezel being gone.
Ah, that makes sense. Yeah. So we're all going to be surprised maybe what's coming out. And if you're in line for a certain product, hopefully this is your time to pull the trigger. I know I always get tempted, but lately, like you said, Andy, when the 8 came out and I'm sitting there on a 7, there was no reason to make any big changes. So the thing that I will be moving into is probably something that'll be charging on a flat surface, hopefully, if that ever comes out.
Jeff, if you get the 10, I can send you memojis.
Oh, that's right. Awesome.
I haven't seen if that's accessible yet, but
isn't that the one where you can take the different emojis, like it's a different, like an animal or something, and you can actually do the recording?
That's like the Animoji, but then with iOS 12, you can actually make a Memoji.
So okay.
And this is a very important feature, you guys, seriously. It can tell if you stick your tongue out or if you wink.
Oh, wow.
It's very important because, you want to be as expressive as possible, right?
Oh, of course, yeah. I mean, hey, it's all about being expressive.
So this is why you should upgrade to the 10. But you're completely forgetting about a piece though too, is if you're not impressed with the 10S or whatever they're going to call it, you can always just get the 10 and save a little bit of money, but have a really solid phone.
I think they should call it the XSF. That way it would be totally excessive.
Oh, ba-dum-bum.
I always like when you do that because it saves me a sound effect.
One last thing, I can't remember where I saw this. I almost want to say that I saw something that even the iPads are going to soon be, the home buttons are going to soon be gone.
Yeah.
I totally forgot about that. I have read that too. And they traditionally have an event in October. Usually they refresh the MacBooks and stuff in October, but they already did that. So I bet it'd be refreshing some brand new iPads.
Yeah, and I heard that the new phone is not going to be equipped for the Pencil either.
Does anybody use the Pencil?
Me? No. I mean,
I know that in certain education environments and things like that, and obviously like maybe, graphic design and stuff like that, but I wonder if the everyday person uses that, what is it, a $200 add-on?
I think it's a $100 add-on, isn't it? I have no use for it. It's just one of those things that are out there, just like the color of the new phones.
Oh my goodness, you guys. So I have one final question for you guys, and we'll check back to see if we're right or not. How many times do you think that Tim Cook or what's the other guy's name? Phil, whatever his name is, all the Apple nerds, how many times do you think they're going to say, now isn't that fantastic? Or what is the word they like the most? Innovative.
If you can actually count that and be accurate, I know I'm not going to try, but if you could come up with that number, I'd be impressed.
If one of our listeners can count how many times they say fantastic or innovative, Blind Abilities t-shirt.
There you go. We got to come up with a number.
If you played a drinking game to that, you would just be absolutely like on the floor.
Yeah. How is your Gatorade, by the way?
It's all gone.
So we guess it was a Gatorade.
It was definitely a Gatorade.
Well, I'll be watching from England. I'll be tuning into it 6 p.m. in England.
And by the way, I was off on my price of the Apple Pencil. It's $99.
Jeff, you were right.
Yeah. Jeff was on the money with it.
Add that to your 2 times that you've been right.
Well, 3 times right is the left, isn't it?
I'm confused. You just made my head hurt. Well, I have enjoyed chatting with you guys, and I can't wait for us to do a recap of the special event next week. We will somehow catch Jeff in the middle of the night, I suppose. We shall figure out the logistics, but we will definitely be back to recap everything that we hear from the special Apple event. And thanks for listening to the brand new Access Abilities podcast on the Blind Abilities Network. We look forward to hearing from you, and we will chat with you next time.
When we share
what we see
through each other's eyes, we can then begin to bridge the gap between
the limited expectations and the reality
of blind abilities. The realities of blind abilities.
For more podcasts with a blindness perspective, check us out on the web at www.blindabilities.com, on Twitter at blindabilities. Download our app from the App Store, blindabilities, that's 2 words, or send us an email at info@blindabilities.com. Thanks for listening.